Well, guys, it's been 12 years since I started making videos on this channel. And it's kind of funny rewatching, the videos I put out. Um, and I can't believe that I started and put up videos even twelve years ago. Then obviously 4 years later, I made another video, which is kind of silly. But 100 subscribers, 113 now, is insane, you guys. Like, thank you so much for supporting me in the comments, liking my videos. You guys have given me a few thousand views on my more recent videos, so I really appreciate everything you guys are doing in this little community that I'm slowly building up here. And hitting like 15K views, it's just like a very weird kind of like sensation of watching your channel kind of grow a little bit here and there. But to give you guys something back, I'm going to give you 5 tips that you might not know. I'm going to try to make them as advanced as I can. Hopefully they can help you guys a good amount. So the first thing I would really do when you get on most of the time is make sure that you're crafting as much as you can in any spot that you can. Mostly because it levels up your hideout management skills. And these skills will actually boost, so we can get 10% more bonus from all hideout zones. And there's this one zone, there's a zone called the air filtering unit, and you get plus 40% physical towards your physical skills. So that means that all of these endurance, strength, vitality, all those physical skills will get another 10% bonus on top of that. So that way you can level up even quicker with these skills. So this is still part of my first tip. So usually I like to craft propofol because you can break even with propofol. Usually I like to create or craft emergency water rations at my nutrition for workbench. I just like to make wires or sometimes a type of ammunition that sells pretty well. And then laboratory, usually fleece sells very well. For the cultist circle, you can use different recipes. I'd recommend a YouTuber called VerybadScavs. He has gone into a lot of different recipes for the cultist circle. So definitely look out for his channel as he finds out new recipes that yield specific items as you sacrifice them in the circle. So there's some pretty big tips that I have for gunplay as well. Which are pretty important. That's why, I'm able to kind of get kills a good amount of the time. Not only do I practice aim labs, which is super important, but my second tip is it's super simple and it's going to sound silly, especially looking at people like, generals, a few other people that are really, whipping around, trying to peek around corners and everything. It's super important to actually sometimes slow down, especially in arena, and just kind of take your time and listen. The biggest thing that I see people do, which is a huge mistake, is sprinting around, especially like Chop Shop or smaller maps. And I can easily know exactly where people are, specifically because of the noise the ground makes when people are running along the ground. So not running as often makes it to where it's very difficult to hear somebody. And so that way you can sneak around and move around without people knowing where you are as often. And I'll show a clip here kind of showing what that looks like and how I'm able to slow down and quickly pick off a few kills. Too easy. Oh my god. My third tip is pretty simple, still deals with combat. So I have an MMO mouse, so I have 12 buttons on the side of my mouse, and one of them I have bound to switching the fire mode on my weapon. This is very important because if something's off at a very far distance and I want to, shoot him accurately in the face, like pulling down and trying to get spray control is super difficult on a target that's at a range. You can see I only hit about 8 shots there. But for example, let's say I pick a scav and I take out the scav pretty easily with full auto. You can burst fire if you want. But you can see sometimes like I'm trying to burst fire as often as I can on full auto, but most of the time you're going to end up accidentally shooting a couple times, especially with an M4 or something with a fast fire rate. But if you switch to semi-auto, you're able to just easily kind of tap away at somebody and almost have full accuracy, 100% accuracy, because you're able to not have that accidental second shot come out. So it makes a very big difference. It's also a niche scenario though, because you know, you're not going to need to go single fire unless you're peeking a very long kind of shot. So that's why it's important to just get used to switching it and maybe even fidgeting with your fire mode as you're kind of running around arena or the main game. One of the other biggest tips that I have is actually, so this will be the 4th tip. This comes down to how you can move to aim at another target. Now it sounds a little silly, but if I'm aiming at this, you know, this target here, and I'm trying to aim for this one, you know, down at the end, you know, it's a little trickier to center and flick to that head, especially because it's so far away. Because it also increases your movement speed and your turn speed. Is try to unscope and basically quick scope your next target before you start shooting at them. So when you're transitioning between targets. So this allows you to quickly switch and, you know, potentially have a better chance at getting to that target a little bit quicker. So instead of trying to kind of maneuver over and, you know, not necessarily, I can't even see the target from here, you know, if I'm aimed in. So that's the other biggest thing is you can't see the target when you're aimed in like this. However, if you're able to unzoom, move, and then zoom back in, you're able to switch and kind of more seamlessly transition between targets, which makes aiming at different enemies a little bit easier. You can do it for any target. I'd say it's not a bad idea to quickly just quick scope basically different targets that you're aiming at. This really works for high ergo builds, but that's typically how people play with most weapons anyways. Nobody usually goes for low ergo builds. Obviously, people that are using low ergo builds need to just stay zoomed in the entire time while they're transitioning between targets. So again, not as... It's more of a niche scenario, I guess, depending on your play style. So my 5th tip of the video is also going to be a combat tip. If you're ever going to move to the right and peek a corner, you obviously have to lay your finger on both the D key and the E key at the same time to be able to, you know, move out and peek. And then the opposite for strafing to the left. So you're pressing the A key and holding the Q key at the same time to lean back and forth. Now, if you know how to circle strafe, circle strafing is being able to, you press W to move forward, D, and then you can press S, and then A. So you're moving in a circle, right? So this is the only way that you can counter strafe in this game, is by what's called circle strafing. Because you cannot simply press A and D to strafe back and forth. You come to a full stop, and that leaves you wide open to die to players. What you need to do is when you're going to peek a corner and you're coming out of a corner here like this, you're going to press and hold D and E. So get used to doing that on cover here. I'm trying to keep the target on somebody's head. And then just practice, you know, going back and forth and not peeking the same angle twice. So you're pressing D and E and then Q and A to go back and forth. And eventually, once you start getting used to that, press D and E, then move forward, and then hold A and Q, move backwards. So D and E, press W, A and Q, press S. And then you'll constantly do this. Just start practicing this. And then eventually you can start doing it a little bit faster. And then you can see how I am able to move back and forth. And you can peek and shoot and counter strafe behind a piece of cover. So if you're on woods and it's like a tree or something, it becomes a very deadly battle for somebody that doesn't know how to do this, when you do know how to do that. And then as you start playing matches and you get used to strafing and moving like that and circle strafing, you're able to quickly, move back and forth, push up, take space. And then high ergo builds become a little more advantageous than low ergo. You can still do low ergo. You're just going to get punished when you go up against somebody that can quickly peek corners and you're sitting there just holding one specific angle. It becomes a little rough. Basically, the last tip I would have, if anything, if you already knew about counter strafing, is please do not peek the same corner twice. Because there are so many times where I see people hold that same angle that they think you're going to peek again and can just completely punish you for it. But if you're able to, again, not peek that angle, then you're punishing them because they're just sitting there holding one spot and not moving. Again, this is mostly just an appreciation video. I can't appreciate your guys' support enough. I'm very, very grateful you guys are tuning in to, if you want to watch my stream, you can come hang out. I do have my schedule on my Twitch channel if you want to see when I'm typically streaming. But I'm still focused on making at least one video and one short once a week. And I'll keep pumping out content for you guys. For some reason, I end up, kind of making more progress on my channel here, potentially getting any revenue. I will, eventually upload more videos throughout the week and be a little more proactive on getting content out. I hope you guys like this video. Please like and subscribe. Tell me in the comments down below if you guys had any tips that have helped you out for the ones I just gave you, or ones that I might have not heard before. I appreciate you guys commenting down below and talking with me about things. I reply to everybody, so it's been really nice talking to you guys. But I'll see you guys in arena probably, so do your dailies and have a good one. See ya.